Hey, She Ace That listeners, find us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Every subscribe, like, and follow goes a long way, and I can't thank you all enough for your support. And with that, let's get into today's episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to She Ace That. It's your host, Alexandra, and today we're diving deep into the world of volleyball recruiting. So whether you're a freshman just starting to think about playing in college or a junior in the thick of the recruiting process, this episode is your complete roadmap to navigating this journey with confidence. I've compiled insights from successful recruits, college coaches, and recruiting experts to bring you everything you need to know. So definitely grab your notebook. It's going to be information packed, and I'm going to try to get through as much as possible. I was really excited to touch on this topic today because I feel like it's not talked about enough. At least when I was in high school, I always thought unless a recruiter or coach came out of their way to me, that's when I was capable enough. But that's actually not the case. A lot of it is in our hands as athletes and as our coaches. So I want to walk you through the avenues that you have if coaches aren't reaching out to you and discuss how to get through this process on your own so that you can fulfill your passion of potentially playing volleyball or any sport in a collegiate level. Before we dive in, I want to talk about the big picture of playing college in general. It is an incredible opportunity. Not many people get it compared to how many students are playing sports in high school, but it isn't for everybody. So there are some things you need to consider. It's definitely a full-time job on top of being a full-time student. That doesn't mean it's impossible, and you definitely still can set yourself up for success, but you are practicing all year round, potentially missing holidays and summer breaks. And the travel demands can be pretty intense, especially at the higher levels. So, this time commitment does affect your social life, internship opportunities, and potentially other college experiences. But the benefits for me totally would outweigh those cons. And there's plenty of questions to ask yourself. Check in how much you love this. Can that be your primary focus for another 4 years? Are you prepared for those physical and mental demands? What are your goals beyond volleyball? Can you handle potentially more criticism and intense coaching? And are you willing to potentially relocate farther from home? I'm a homebody, so I knew it was important for me to go to a school in Michigan close to my family. But I know plenty of volleyball recruits, especially that have had to take opportunities out of state. And they're still very happy and content, but it's just a personal decision that you're going to have to look inward. There are so many benefits, though, to playing at a collegiate level. You will have an immediate built in community and lifelong friendships that most people don't get unless they have friends that are going to the same college as them. You'll have structure and discipline that sets you up for life success as an athlete. Plenty of personality traits and characteristics to take you and help you become even more successful throughout your life that you might not have even noticed. But at that level, as an adult, it's adding to your toolbox. You'll get potential scholarship opportunities. And I feel like that is a huge driver for why athletes want to play in college in the first place. It shouldn't be your only reason, but it's a huge bonus. You'll have even more access to training facilities and coaching. Throughout this podcast, really soul search. Talk to current and former college players. And if you don't know any, feel free to reach out and I'd be happy to connect you with some. The best recruits are those that go in with their eyes wide open. If you're already pinpointing one program or one state that you're like, all bets are off, that is going to limit your options. I always highly recommend to see all that's out there. What happens when you decide to pursue college volleyball? You do need to understand the landscape, and there's different divisions that I feel like most of us are probably aware of just watching sports in general. For NCAA, there's D1, which is the highest level of competition. That's the most scholarship money available, more than likely is the biggest time commitment. D2 is still highly competitive. There's some scholarship money to still be received, and it's a slightly more balanced lifestyle, but still a huge commitment. NCAA D3, there's not really any athletic scholarships that I'm aware of, but there is strong academic aid, which can still make a huge impact on your college financial tuition. Another division that most people don't know about is NAIA, a great alternative. They still offer scholarships, and it's smaller schools or private schools where I've seen them, but it's still competitive sports. So just something to look into as well and keep your mind open to. Junior colleges. Now, this is something that most people don't even realize they have the opportunity to look into. It's a great stepping stone, especially to be able to transfer for the sport to a larger school, maybe after your first year or two playing at a junior college. It allows academic and athletic development. So maybe you don't have the best grades coming out of high school, and this is your way to get your GPA geared up, get your athletic resume even more built, and then look into potential transfers. Your freshman and sophomore year of high school, this is when you're really focusing on skill development and academics. You're attending maybe 2 to 3 key camps in the summer. You're starting to build your recruiting profile like we discussed earlier. and you're sending introductory emails. And my advice is about 20 to 30 programs, or as many as you have time to. You need the time to keep track of them and be able to get back to all of them. You don't want to ghost anybody. But reaching out to 20 and 30 programs at various levels cannot hurt anybody. When you get to your junior year of high school, narrow the focus down to 10 to 15 realistic programs. And that's still a lot. So if you only want to narrow it down to maybe 2 to 5, I think that's totally valid as well. But I'm, again, always supportive of giving yourself more opportunities if possible. Increasing the communication frequency for all of these programs, probably on a monthly basis, attending tournaments where target coaches will be, and take official visits in the fall as a junior. I think it's really important to start getting that physical in person foundation. When it comes to your senior year in high school, even if you're there now, you're not too late. But it's really good to start making some decisions during your season by early fall if possible, just because a lot of programs for the next year are starting to get their rosters lined up. And maintain those relationships after committing. Don't just think, oh, I'm going to accept this verbal offer and not reach out to these coaches. These are the coaches and players who you will be spending the next 4 years with, and first impressions matter so much. So, building that relationship now will really help you for anything that you need throughout the next 4 years. And make sure you're staying in shape and keeping your grades up during your senior year. This is not the time to slack. This is the time to gear up your body and your mentality for this next level. And prepare for the transition to college. Yes, this is about sports, but this is also about so much more than that. I think most people who go away for college will say it is an adjustment, and it doesn't mean it's a positive or negative one. It's just a huge life change and a new chapter that consists of more than just sports or academics. So, what is the recruiting timeline? Let's get a little bit specific. Your key contact periods for volleyball are September 1st, which is coming up, through November 30th. And there are a few dead periods in between, but that's really when coaches are able to contact you. And it's also during the season. So it's something to keep in mind as this next month goes by, depending on what year you are, if you really want to tune into the recruiting journey. January 17th through July 31st is also another window where coaches are able to contact you. There are several dead periods in there for, I think, D1 schools, but it's just something to keep in mind that you're not able to contact coaches all of the time. And here's what many athletes don't realize, and I wish I knew more when I was in high school, is that coaches are watching and evaluating you long before they can even contact you. So until end of your sophomore season, they're not allowed to contact you, but they are at tournaments. They're watching online videos and they're building their recruit databases starting at the freshman level. So it's never too early to start an athletic resume. And what I mean by that is starting to collect stats, collect specific improvements like your vertical jump. Do you have video of, yes, highlight reels during games, but also just the best skills that you have maybe during a practice? And really starting to gather all of that. The cool thing nowadays that I never even thought of when I was in high school is that you can create a whole social media page just on you as a player. So create a new Instagram. I would title it Alexandra's Volleyball Page, and it would have all of my videos, every access point for these coaches to get just by looking my name up. So there's really great opportunities and tools now more than ever to get your name out there, but it's something to take into consideration as you are entering high school. It's never too late. And that all filters into the recruiting process itself. So, you want to make sure from an athletic development standpoint that you are documenting everything: stats, measurables, achievement. Create skill videos showing the technique again, not just the highlights. Attend camps and showcases strategically. So, you want to look into these from a quality versus quantity basis because you want to understand which programs are going to be at what showcases or camp. It's really not great to waste your body or your energy or potential injuries at many of them if they're not really going to be giving you a good output after. I know people aren't as fortunate to always be able to play club because it is so expensive. But if you are playing for a reputable club, that also really does help because a lot of those coaches attend those major tournaments, especially at nationals and states, regionals, and qualifiers. So just something to take into consideration while looking at your off season throughout the next few years of the rest of your high school experience. Now, for academic excellence, NCAA eligibility requirements, and many coaches, your GPA and your grades and your test scores are non negotiable. So, yes, there's time for improvement still if you're early on in high school, but don't start yourself in a slump. You want to start yourself as high as possible. So then over time, you're not trying to rebuild up. If you do have a major tests that you can think of take them early. And if you need to, take them often. I know some people think, oh, I can't take this ACT over and over. That looks bad. No, it actually doesn't. I know people who got like a 26 on their ACT and then took it again and got like a 34. That's an incredible improvement just by being able to take the test one time and understanding how the thought process works, what sections you might need to spend more time on, maintaining a strong GPA, taking your tests early and often, and then taking challenging courses in high school also makes you stand out. It shows you can handle rigor on top of being an athlete. You can also get college credits for AP or IB classes. So try to look into those going throughout your high school journey. Those are not going to make or break your recruiting output, but it's just another thing to add into your recruiting toolbox. And then, like I just said, your recruiting profile is everything through this process. So, create profiles on recruiting platforms. There's a lot out there, and actually, some school districts support recruiting. Like, I remember when I was in high school, my school district supported Huddle, which is a good recruiting platform. But the more recruiting platforms you're on, the better it is for you at the end of the day. Along with your athletic resume, building a 3 to 5 minute max highlight video. You don't need a whole 20-minute one because more than likely those aren't all highlights. And establish that professional social media presence that is more impactful now than ever. For underclassmen, if you're a freshman or sophomore, even though coaches can't contact you directly yet, they can respond to your communication. So start building relationships early because I promise you those will continue throughout your high school career. And then those recruiters and college coaches know that you're interested up front and can start putting placeholders for you throughout the remainder of your high school experience. Now, one thing in recruiting, and again, this goes back to not even realizing what you're allowed and not allowed to do, but communication is where most recruits succeed or fail. So I'll break down exactly how to do this the right way and give you some guidelines on getting your name out there and following the rules, but also not overstepping in avenues that you might think you want to ask on. When you go to send an initial email after your sophomore season, this is exactly what you're going to do. In the subject line, you're going to put the year you're graduating, your position, your height, your vertical, your name, and then the number jersey you are and whatever school or club that you play for. You're going to write to the coach specifically, and you don't want to say here to whom it may concern. You want to find a recruiter's or coach's specific name and email and tailor this specific to them. You're going to say that you've been following their programs, right? Because we want to make it sound like you're actually interested in their program, not just looking for anybody and anybody to offer you. Pick out a specific win that they had and something good that they did in their program. Let's say you're a back row player and they play the style of defense that you play in high school. That's something that you can leverage. Again, explain kind of everything that I just said in the subject line and give them some opportunities to come see you at either games or tournaments. So give them your schedule. Put the ball in their court to come see you. Now, this is where you're going to add your highlight video and your transcript and any other maybe test scores or things that you can give them just so they have them on hand already. But then really put it back on them to see if they will attend any of the events that you provided them. Because if you just send them an email with your dates, they might pick one, but you also want to be given a heads up if they're like, hey, I'm okay, yes, I'm going to be going to your tournament in 2 weeks at this place. So just keep that in mind to try to get an answer directly back from them. Now, what happens if you don't receive a response in the first few days? You can send an initial follow up a few days after if you want, but with everything and how programs can be busy, summer off season trainings can be busy. If you do have their phone number, you can follow up with a phone call maybe a week after sending that initial email. And it's not that you're trying to pest them, but you're really trying to get that established relationship. And if they don't answer the phone, leave a voicemail every single time. You want to tell them exactly why you're calling. If you just call them, they're not going to have any clue what phone number is calling them, and they're more than likely not going to give you the time to give you a call back. And as time goes on, here's Alexandra's pro tip to you. Send them updated new achievements that you have throughout your season. If you aren't hearing back from them on a monthly basis, send them new achievements for your team or yourself, or any improvements in skills or team dynamics or tournament wins. They want to see that you're keeping them updated. And I think it's really cool that you have the opportunity to just reach out. It doesn't mean that they are going to respond, especially if it's during a time that they're not allowed to. But it is cool because you can just keep sending stuff. And then once the window opens for them to reach out, they'll already have everything compiled for you specifically. If you are going to call the coaches in season, I would say later evening's a good time. Off season, there's some more flexibility, but in the summer, they're often at camp. So you're just going to have to try various times and it's a hit or miss thing. And seriously, leave voicemails. Even if they can't call you back, if you're an underclassman, they are noting your interest and professionalism, and it makes you stand out reaching out now versus in a few more years. So let's say you reached out and you're starting to get some levels of interest from these recruiters or college coaches. I have some tactics to use when gauging how interested coaches might be in you. I'll walk you through 4 different levels of interest that I see coaches have over time and how to navigate each of those. So, the level 1 is their initial interest in you, where they might give you a generic camp invite, questionnaires, you might be added to a mailing list. That's when you know the program is starting to gain that initial interest in you. And it means that you're building that relationship. So it's good to maintain it. The level 2 is when there's genuine interest. You have personalized emails mentioning they've watched your videos. You have social media follows and interactions. Coaches might be introducing themselves to you at tournaments or coming up and talking to you one on one. And they're also asking for your schedule or updates to your schedule if you've already provided it to them. This is where they're actually putting the relationship efforts back into you. And this can happen as soon as your sophomore year in high school, but this can also happen your senior year of high school. So if you don't feel this level of interest yet from a specific program, hopefully my tips and tricks to you today will get you there. Level 3 is when there's some serious interest from recruiters and college coaches. This is when you're getting phone calls or texts once they're allowed, unofficial visit invitations, requests for transcripts and test scores, and asking about other interests of yours. So they're trying to see if you personally would be a good fit for their school and their program. It's not just about the sport and it's not just about the grades. They want to get to know you for you. So be as genuine as you can. And sometimes people say fake it till you make it. But in this situation, you want to be 110% authentically yourself throughout the recruiting process. And lastly, level 4. This is when you know you are a priority for that program. You're going to have official visit invitations, which means they're investing budget in you. You're going to be getting regular communications, maybe a verbal scholarship offer, which is still, it's not a legally binding agreement, but it's still a commitment. And then lastly, if you start receiving any pressure on a timeline to commit to their program. Now, how do you respond at these levels? I will tell you, Alexandra's pro tip to you is always match the recruiters or college coaches' energy plus 10, 20%, right? So if they send a questionnaire, fill it out immediately and send a follow up email. If they call, already have questions prepared in your pocket for them. If they invite you to a visit, show genuine enthusiasm and come prepared with knowledge on their program. The more that you give in to this process, the more that you will get out. And it shouldn't just be on them. The pool is large, and just recognize that if you are chosen for an offer, that is a huge honor. And the effort that you're returning shows that you already have a respect for them in their program. And that's normally one of their top traits that they're looking for. So you might ask, what types of questions would I even ask the recruiter when they call me? And I'm going to just give you a whole list of them. Feel free to put some in your notes on your phone, write some down, or come back to the episode. There's so many things that you could ask about the program, about your potential role in that program, about support systems, about life balance, money talk, which that we'll get into, but only after genuine interest is established. And then even what are next steps in the recruiting process. So here's some questions for you that I want you to think about when talking to the recruiters. What does a typical week look like in season versus off season? How many hours do players typically spend on volleyball activities daily? What's your travel schedule like? Do we miss class time and how is that handled? What happens with training during winter break and summer? How would you describe your coaching style and philosophy? Then, when talking about your specific role for this program, what position do you see me playing? What do I need to improve on to contribute more to your program? How do freshmen typically fit into your system? Now, when it comes to support systems, what happens if I get injured? This is a critical question because you don't want to lose any scholarship off an injury and you don't want to lose being a part of a team. Do injuries suck? Absolutely. But does that mean you can't fulfill a different role even if it's not physically on the court? Yes. And that goes for high school too. What academic support is available for athletes? And this is important too, because balancing a full time athlete and a full time student is so much more than you'll ever realize. And you want to make sure that you're set up for success going into this dynamic. Do players have access to nutritionists and mental health resources? What type of strength and conditioning programs do you run? Can athletes pursue internships or study abroad? What do players typically do after graduation? How do you support players' career development? And when talking about after graduation or talking about degrees in general, is it cool if you're in high school and you know exactly what you want to do for the rest of your life? Yeah, that would be really nice if most people felt that way. But if you have no clue what you want to do in 5 years, 10 years, or what degree you want to commit to at a college, I'm here to tell you that's okay. I switched my degree halfway through my freshman year in college. I really didn't let it define where I went. And there's people who are 40, 50 years old. They have no clue what they want to do with the rest of their lives. They just have a stable job or found something that they're excited to do in the meantime. But don't let that pigeonhole you into one program or one area. You may or may not change your degree halfway through your college career. You might go for one degree and then after college, have a job in something completely different. So just don't let that stress you out or define you. I know that's easier said than done, but start with something general so you get some basic prerequisites out of the way. And then from there, you can find your niche and see what really speaks to you. There are some questions that are important regarding money and financial assistance when it comes to committing to play at a collegiate level. But do not ask these until genuine interest is fully established and you are about to receive a verbal or official offer. That's a huge thing for people and extremely helpful and important. But this is not the priority to the recruiters and coaches. They will try to work with you and probably set you up for success in that realm. But all money talk should be off the table until official offers are out there. When the time is right, you can ask what types of financial aid are available even beyond athletic scholarships. What expenses are covered by the program? And do players need to purchase their own equipment? All of these costs can add up. And on top of a full college tuition and food and living arrangements, I just want you to be cautious when accepting an offer that you have all of the finances on the table. And always end with what are the next steps in your recruiting process? Because you want to know what to expect next. Are you going to be expecting a phone call, a visit, an offer? And I think when we don't know what's going on, that's when our anxiety is more heightened. So try to really establish those next steps every time that you're speaking with a coach or recruiter. A huge topic is campus visit invitations. Now, this is huge, and I highly recommend you to take up every offer that you're given. And I'll share how to maximize these. Before you go on a visit, research everything, even jot down notes if you have to, of the roster, their recent season results, coaching staff backgrounds. You want at least 15 to 20 questions that you have for them. Because if you go and you don't have any questions, it just comes off as you're not caring as much. And make sure you ask what you need to wear to the visit as well. Some visits will want you in business casual for meetings, and some will want you in athletic wear if you're going to be participating in a practice. Bring a pair of clothes for each of those situations, but it's always good to align with the coach or recruiter ahead of time. And this one's really important, but bring multiple copies of transcripts and test scores. That's just like when you go to a job interview and you might have already applied online prior. It still looks really good to go out of your way and have a printed resume to provide to that interviewer because it just makes you look like you went the extra mile. And now they have a tangible copy if they didn't already, which means they'll probably be on the top of their pile on their desk versus all the ones that are online electronically in their systems. When you are at the visit, and this is all pretty common sense, but make sure you arrive early and be enthusiastic, engaging with everybody, assistant, support staff, current players, and leverage your time with the current players as much as you can. You can ask them, like, what surprised them while playing at that program? How do their coaches handle conflicts? What's the team culture really like from their perspective? And do players that hang outside of volleyball and really anything else that you could relate to on the student athlete level? Those are the individuals that you'll be getting the most realistic, transparent insight. And I think it's really important to leverage that. Now, there are some red flags to watch for. If players seem really unhappy or they just don't have the drive or motivation, that's your number one red flag that this program might not be for you. You really want to have that motivation and drive from each other, stemming from your coaches, but also between the players. And if you're already seeing that they really don't care, I would be cautious about considering that program. Sometimes a red flag is a high transfer rate because that means that the players aren't happy in that program. But be cautious when looking at those numbers because there's so many amazing programs out there that are building players up to play at a higher division or level. Make sure the coaches aren't bad mouthing other programs. Like we all have rivals and can joke around. But I think if they're not confident in their program and themselves and they're talking bad about others. It's not giving the best vibe for what the next 4 years will look like for you. And make sure they have a development plan for their players. So if you're going into this and they don't have a development plan for their current players to get them to improve on certain skill sets or even get them to a next level, be cautious. When you are done with this visit and even interviews or anything in life in general, it's always great to send a personalized thank you email within 24 hours. You want to make sure you're referencing specific conversations, maybe including some photos from the visit if it's appropriate, and be clear about your continued interest or take this opportunity to politely indicate that this might not be the best fit for you. You really don't want to be taking up unnecessary time from a program or unnecessary time from your recruiting process. So if you already know after a visit that the college is off the table, it's always best and most respectful to be as transparent as possible. I do want to take a few minutes to dive deeper into what not to do during this process. So when you are providing these programs your abilities and skill set, please do not oversell the abilities that you can't prove. So, if you're playing baseball, let's say, and you're promising that you can pitch over 85 miles per hour, really, when you've only pitched 70, they're going to figure you out, right? Like, they're going to find out the truth about you while watching you, while talking with you. And it's awful to overcommit. Don't mention other schools as your dream schools. They could care less. Don't badmouth your other coaches, teammates, or other programs. We all have those times where we might not be extremely ecstatic about our current team situation, but that's not the purpose of your communications with them. And they'll think if you're already complaining about your current coaches, then they're in for one themselves. And lastly, don't compare yourself to other recruits. Everybody can bring their own unique things to the table and to a program. If somebody can jump higher than you or swing faster than you or approach quicker than you, that has nothing to do with what you're still able to bring to the team. And I just hate to see people lose confidence due to comparison in sports in general, especially when going to these higher levels, because they are really competitive. And like I said earlier, it's okay to be following up, even if they're not responding as efficiently back to you, but don't hound them on why haven't you offered me yet? Don't come off too desperate and pushy. Don't come off like this is the only one that you're really relying on. It's really good to be patient through this. It is a long process, and I really feel for athletes who have to go through it. But I promise you the ending will be so worth it. So just be patient and do the best you can. Never lead with scholarship questions, like I stated earlier. Don't commit to any program unless you are 100% ready to shut down the whole recruiting process. It can really get messy, even if you accept a verbal offer. Never accept a verbal offer until you're ready to take all other offers or recruiting processes off the table. One important thing to keep in mind, especially as you're going through high school, is social media. Making sure that your social media is as clean as possible. I'm sure you've heard this lecture from everybody and their mom in your lifetime, but anything you post can come back to haunt you. Don't be complaining about your coaches on there. Don't be posting pictures at parties. Don't be posting about anything you shouldn't want, anything you wouldn't want your grandmother to see. My grandma's cool and I could definitely post more than I should on there, but that's my guidance to you all. And when you are going to visits, be on time, be prepared. Don't allow your parents to dominate conversations. That's out of your control, but make sure they're aware as well that this is really for you as an adult to navigate this. They are more than welcome there for support, but don't allow them to drive your entire visit because then it looks like you're not able to hold your own. And don't be glued to your phone while you're there either. It's probably good to have your phone on you just in case you need other communication contacts or things in that realm, but just make sure that you're really present on the visit. Let's talk about scholarships. So, the reality is that D1 normally has 12 full scholarships, and they typically split those among 18 plus players. Some girls get full ride scholarships, some girls get partial, and some get none, and they're just considered walk ons. So, majority of players do receive partial scholarships, and that's just something to keep in mind while going through this. D2 schools normally have 8 scholarships to divide, again, depending on the program. D3 offers mainly no athletic scholarships and often generous academic aid. When it comes to NAIA, it varies by school. When you discuss money, it's never really an initial communication. Wait until after they've shown genuine interest. Let them bring it up first, if possible, and frame it as that you're understanding all options on the financial front, not giving demands. It really isn't a great look if you're going in and saying, oh, I'm only looking at programs that are offering me a full ride scholarship. It's not really fair for you to make that decision or for the programs to play that favoritism up front. It's something that they have to work on in the background. And I'm not saying that it's not important and a deal breaker. It absolutely can be. But when you're coming off demanding, it's not as helpful. So frame it as that you're trying to understand all financial options. And you can ask them, like, what does a typical financial package look like for you for your players? Are there opportunities to earn additional scholarship money if I'm not receiving a full scholarship? And what expenses should families plan for beyond tuition? Coaches and recruiters respect players who understand it's not all about the money. Yes, to most people I know, again, it's super important, but show they are interested in their program first and finances second. Some topics that we didn't really discuss yet would be like safety and well being. So, it's always important to ask about campus safety measures, understanding their concussion protocols, knowing your rights regarding medical care, and asking about the mental health resources that I stated earlier. The academic realities are important. Like some majors may be impossible with your practice schedule, and that's something that you'll just have to accept. Again, whatever major you get in college, take it with a grain of salt. I know nowadays it's like the job world is a little bit difficult, but I wouldn't rely on thinking that one degree is going to make or break the rest of your life. Understand how they handle missed classes, ask about graduation rates for their athletes, and knowing if summer camps are required. When it comes to the transfer portal, understand that's an option, but don't come into this that's a plan. Okay. So ask coaches about their transfer philosophy and know that the relationships matter even more. If you are a parent listening to this today, support your players, but don't dominate the process. This is the time for your children to show that they're becoming adults and able to hold their own. Let your daughter or son lead the conversations. You can ask practical questions, of course, about safety and academics, but really remind yourself that you're there just for mental support and understand that the financial commitment is beyond scholarships. You really don't want to ruin this experience for your kid, for your athlete. So keep updating those profiles, keep posting your training content on social media. There's schools out there that you probably have never heard of in your life, and they might be your destiny. You never know. This recruiting process is one of the most challenging yet rewarding experiences you'll ever go through. Yes, it's overwhelming. Yes, there will be rejection, but remember, every no is redirecting you to your perfect yes. And the right fit is out there. So be patient. I know it's so much easier said than done, but be patient. Trust the process, but control what you can control. Your character matters as much as your volleyball skills. Remember that. This isn't just like your next club season or the next level in high school. This is your home for the next 4 years. It's important to stay organized. You're going to be dealing with many communications, and being persistent is so important. Don't ever feel like you're being a burden until you're told to stop contacting the coach. Remain authentic because they're really trying to get to know you, and keep perspective. The coaches aren't just recruiting a volleyball player. They're recruiting a person who will represent their program, university, and potentially change their entire team culture. They're relying on you to come in and make waves. They need more from you than you can even imagine, and you'll get even more in return. And make sure you document this journey, guys. Like, you'll want to remember it. And when you finally find your college home, all the emails, all the calls, the visits, the ridiculous stress will be worth it. So, if you get anything from this episode, is if you haven't been reached out to by recruiters or coaches yet, that does not mean this is the end for you. This could be just the beginning. And again, I wish I knew in high school that I had the ball in my court. And for some reason, I was never told that. So, if you haven't been told that, please use this episode to remind yourself that you are beyond capable of playing at a collegiate level, no matter your skill set, no matter the sport. And one last thing, let's say you go through this entire recruiting process and it was a dud after dud. I promise you that is meant to be for you. And there are other ways to keep sports in your life external of playing at those levels. Like for me, at the end of my high school senior volleyball season, I had to accept that I wasn't going to be playing competitive volleyball anymore. And little did I know, going to Michigan State and trying out for the club team and how incredibly competitive and amazing that was, I got to keep volleyball in my life on a competitive level for another 4 years. And that was life changing for me. So if you don't commit to a school officially, there's so many schools that have amazing club programs or other programs where you're still able to fulfill your passion and love for it. So don't think it's the end. If this episode helped you, please share it with a teammate or a parent. We rise by lifting others, and all we can do is keep informing each other on how to progress in our athletic careers and journeys overall. You have the support. Follow She Aced That on all social media platforms for more recruiting tips. Keep being diligent. Thank you all for joining She That, and we'll see you next Wednesday.